I'm good, man. How are you, bro? Perfect, man. Cool. Yeah, man. Tom takes it in his stride, bro. He's super professional. It's almost like he's been here a million times. He's very good at understanding that once you're in there and that cage door is locked, it's the same as any fight anywhere in the world. He's been fighting high level guys back home in Australia on eternal MMA. So he's doing really well at just keeping his mind calm and his mind focused. He's a rare individual like that. He's studied this fight game inside and out since he was 13 years old, and that's like from a fighting perspective, a technique perspective, but also in terms of like understanding how to handle media, how to handle pressure. He's a through and through professional, and he's got it all dialed in, man. And tomorrow can't come soon enough for him. Yeah, 100%, man. That was probably, I would say, the best camp Tom's ever done. And Tom said that himself a number of times. Every camp that we've done together, he has gotten better and better. He joined us two fights into his pro career, and he had two decisions now. He's coming off, I think this is fight number five or six, and they've all been finishes, And every single time we dial it in, and the camp gets better, the camp gets more finely tuned. The weight cut was a breeze, like it's the best weight cut he's ever done. Everything kind of just came together. Perfect timing, perfect camp, perfect game plan. I believe we'll find out tomorrow night, and it'll all come to fruition. Yeah, man, it's been a pretty incredible journey for him. He's just a young lad. He's kind of come from a small town, kind of like middle of nowhere. And he was doing a plumber's apprenticeship under his brother, and just decided that, hey, man, like if I'm going to do this, I need to do it now. And he sold everything he owned, including his home, and moved to a new city where we are now in Brisbane to train under me and my dad, Steve, and went all in. And he said like he invested in himself to make it to the UFC, and he's been relentless on that journey, man. He's been relentless in his pursuit in the gym every day. He works harder than just about anyone I've ever met. But not only does he work hard, he works smart. Like I said before, he understands the fight game. He studied it for 10 years now. It's, like I said, he's only a young lad, but he's been in this a long time. Like I've seen lately, people saying, "Oh, he's only like six fights into his pro career and this and that." And it's like, yeah, that's 100% true, but sometimes experience isn't always on paper. And Tom's got a lot of fight experience from his amateur career, fight experience from being in the gym surrounded with super high level guys. He's also got a lot of life experience. So all that comes together and, in my opinion, makes the perfect fighter. And it's been cool to watch his journey unfold. It's been cool to be a part of it. Stand alongside him and my dad and the other coaches and training partners we have at Compton Training Centre. And really kind of go after what I believe could be the next superstar in the UFC. I believe that he could definitely be a title holder and one of the greats. Yep. Yeah, it was cool, man. It was like there's a lot of pressure on me for that fight because like obviously like I've got my career in Thai boxing that I've had for years and like my accolades and things that I've done there, but there was kind of like a question mark next to what can I do in an MMA arena. I've trained with MMA guys my whole career. I've coached a lot of MMA guys. I'm a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. So there's a lot of like, yeah, that's all good on paper, but can I put it together where it counts on fight night, And we went after Takuya Oyama because he was like experienced. There's other guys that kind of the names came across our desk, and they were kind of, some guys had less than five fights, some guys had less than 10 fights, and Takuya Oyama at the time was 11-6, former Japanese champion, former Dream champion. He'd had 15 pro boxing fights. He'd been around, like he was like brown belt jiu-jitsu, had competed in like ADCC trials, I believe, a whole bunch of different jiu-jitsu competitions. Like, don't quote me on what the competitions are because I don't really follow the jiu-jitsu circuit too much. Uh, but he was the most credentialed guy that came across our desk, and we went after him because I wanted to make a statement on my MMA debut. It's hard to go from fighting Nicky Holzkin in a kickboxing match to fighting a guy that's on debut in an MMA match. Um, so yeah, man, I knew that knee was going to be there. If you scroll back through my Instagram, there's like footage of me drilling that exact sequence in the dressing room, warming up with one of my training partners. And we came out, moved around. I hit him with the 1-2 early on, relatively slow start, but I saw my shot and I knew it was time to take it. And bang, there it was. And then we ended up in a bit of a grapple as I tried to finish him. And I felt his knees come up off the mat. It was literally just felt like a tight clinch, but there's like at a slightly lower elevation. And I put that final knee on him and left him face down on the canvas. So pretty cool, cool moment for me, man. I'd say probably one of the best moments of my career, I'd say. Yep. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, it's going to feel pretty incredible, man. I had 9 cancellations last year, and I went through 20 something different opponents. Last year was probably one of the most frustrating years of my entire career. And I had some frustrating years when I fought for one championship. But last year was like, man, like I can't even begin to tell you. It was like every month we booked a new fight because the last one fell out, and then that would fall over. Then the next one would fall over. This guy would pull out. This would get cancelled. This guy would get visa issues. Then this guy got injured, and it was just like one after the other. And you got to remember, man, I come from a Thai boxing background, right? I like to fight like a minimum of 4 to 6 times a year. Like that's when I do my best work when I'm active and I'm bouncing back to back. So to go like one fight a year for the last couple of years has been like super frustrating. Then I had like the debacle that happened in my last fight last year in one championship, the Lumpini card, and it was just a shit year. It was a year that I really didn't want. I wanted a year that was got like could really get busy and really like my plan was to fight like every 6 weeks last in 2023, but none of it came to fruition. So to get back now, I'm booked for February 16th in Dubai. That's K1 rules kickboxing fight against a guy from Bosnia, a super talented fighter, very very good. Um, he's coming up the ranks a little bit, so it's kind of time for me to kind of restamp my legacy in that era and that area of the sport, I should say. And then 4 weeks later, I back it up and fight on Eternal MMA, Australia's best MMA promotion, against Lachlan Stitt, who's the welterweight standout at the moment. He's knocked a few guys out with some vicious head kicks and kind of made a bit of a name for himself as a vicious striker. So excited to get out there and test myself in that arena as well. And then hopefully back it up again 6 weeks later after that. Yeah. Man, there's a bunch of them for different reasons. But the one that really stands out would be like my knockout of the night award that I won at the original Lumpini Stadium in Bangkok. I'd had I'd had an amazing fight camp until about 10 days out, and then the opponent that I had dropped out, and the only opponent that I could get was down in the division. So I was like, yeah, you know what, let's do it anyway. And then it turns out like my weight wasn't where I thought it was. The scales that I had were broken. And anyway, it was a whole long story. And I had this like wild weight cut to get to the fight, same day weigh in. Ended up in hospital the day of the fight. Like the whole thing was just crazy. And like I had every single sign that was telling me not to do the fight. But at the same time, I had every single feeling in my body. It was like, man, this is what I set out to do from day one. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to fight at the main show, co-main event, Lumpini Stadium. That's what I'd always wanted to do. That's the pinnacle of the sport. That's as good as fighting in the UFC at that point for Muay Thai fighters, right? That's doesn't get any higher than that. So I went through. Obviously, I just like no, I'm not backing out of this. Like I'm not dead yet. So we got through the adversity and went out and fought and won by a third round spinning elbow knockout, one knockout of the night award, an award that at the time wasn't awarded to many foreigners. It was kind of reserved for the Thais a little bit more, especially on the main show of the week on the main on the main card. Uh, so to win that was like a real special moment for me. It was like almost like the pinnacle of the sport at that point. So that was one, and then obviously making my one championship debut against Cosmo Alexandre. Fight didn't necessarily go to plan, but that moment of walking out and knowing that like this is the big leagues and this is where I belong, and putting on a hell of a performance up until I got caught. That was cool. Yeah, so like I said, man, I've got a lot of different highlights. Like I said, I've had 62 professional fights all over the world. I've got a lot of different highlights that stick out for different reasons. So yeah, but they're probably the main two. Cool, man. Complete composure, but complete violence too. Tom brings the fight every time he steps in. He's not timid by any stretch of the imagination. It's easy to look back at his whole track record of fights on Fight Pass. Every single time he steps into that cage, he brings it, and he brings it hard. And it's going to be no different now. It's in the under the biggest lights in the UFC. It's like if anything, it's going to be more so. He's going to bring the fire. Nicholas Motta is a game opponent, 100%, but in my opinion, he's not on Tom's level. He's uh, Tom's going to show the world who he is tomorrow night, and I can't wait to see the boy come to life, man. It's going to be a pretty epic story. Ah, cool, bro. Yeah, man. Like he said to me on the bus on the way in, this morning, it's been one of the best weeks of his life. He said it doesn't feel surreal at all. He said he feels the most relaxed that he's ever felt coming into a fight, which for me, like as a coach, training partner, someone that obviously I've never fought in the UFC, but I fought a lot of high level fights, is a really good sign in someone that just kind of takes it in their stride, soaks up the moment, is conscious of what is happening, is conscious of the journey that they're on, is conscious of everything that's about to explode in front of him, and the opportunity to change his life that's in front of him. Um, so yeah, man, like he's kind of like as he always does, he rises to the occasion, takes it in his stride, and it's almost like he's done this 50 times. Like he's almost like comes across almost like Jim Miller, but on his debut. It's pretty cool to see. Man, it's unreal. Like I was talking to Tom about it when we were out running the other day when we first got into Vegas. What a life, man! Like I literally traveled the world with my best friends and my dad, and fight a man in another country for money. And I get to see parts of the world that no one else will ever see. And like even when I'm not fighting, I'm training, and I've been blessed to, like you said, I've trained and spent so much time in Thailand training and learning the Thai way of doing things in different cultures. I've spent time all throughout Asia, throughout the US, and like to say I'm blessed is true, but at the same time, it hasn't come without its hard work and without its sacrifices too. It's easy sometimes to look at like what I do and or what we all do and go, oh, that would be nice. And it's like, yeah, it would be nice, but you have no idea how hard it was to get to this point. You don't understand the blood, sweat, and tears that we went through to get to where we are now. And I'm mindful of that. Like I've got a young family. I've got like my immediate family, like my mom and my sister, and I think about the sacrifices and the things that they made for me to be able to live the life that I live now. When we were kids and everything else, and man, it's special. Like it's I have a lot to look back on and a lot to be proud of and a lot of stories to tell. and a lot of advice and a lot of experience that I can share that translates beyond fighting. I can share things with my daughter, and it's and like without to get too sentimental, like it's a very special journey, man. And it's something that I wouldn't change for the life for anything. Like I made my decision that this is what I was going to do when I was 18 years old. I didn't graduate high school. I didn't, I went all in on this, the same as Tom did. And I truly believe that I've made the most of every opportunity that's ever been presented to me. I've never said no to a fight. I've never said no to an experience. I've literally gone after everything with complete conviction. And that's why I'm in the position that I'm in today, where I get to travel the world and do the things that I get to do, and make a living off something that I'm passionate about, and something that fuels me and inspires others. It's a pretty like rewarding job and experience. Thank you, man. It's the cliche, right? Like everyone says, like you got the one shot, make the most of it. But it's the truth, man. And at the end of the day, there are so many things in life that you can get back, or that you can trade in or whatever. But time is something that you'll never get back, and it's important that you make the most of the time that you've got. And I'm pretty proud to say that I've always done that. And I've chased my journey. My journey might not be the same as what others want for their journey in this sport or in this business, but I know wholeheartedly that I have done what I wanted to do my whole career, and I continue to do that now. Some people say, "Oh, you should have done this, or you should have done that." Yeah, maybe I should, or maybe I shouldn't. Maybe you should have done this, or maybe you should have done that. But the fact of the matter is I live the life of my dreams every day, man. I wake up, and the things that most people dream about doing are my memories, and that to me speaks volumes. Shoot. Yeah. Take some chances, man. Roll the dice. Go after it. Like we were just saying. I think these days people play it too safe. They focus. It's like, again, it's the cliche that you read on Instagram and like the motivational posts on people's walls. Like, don't focus on the destination, but focus on the journey. And it's true, man. Like I see a lot of young lads these days. They come through and they're trying to find the fastest way to the top, the fastest way to the UFC, and it's like, that's awesome, man. It's cool. You're gonna make yourself some money, but are you doing the groundwork to make sure that you're successful when you get there? Because getting there and staying there and being successful when you get there are two very different things. So I think for me, like, my advice is take some risks and roll some dice and make sure that you soak up the experiences on the way, because without those experiences, that's where the lessons are. And you're not going to learn the lessons without the experience. So if you try and bypass the experience, you don't have the education that you need to be successful at the highest level. But I think further to that, exactly what we were just saying before, take some time to enjoy the journey, like enjoy every part of this game, and don't get that chip on your shoulder too much about that the world owes you something or this sport owes you something, man. Us as fighters, if we're making a living out of this sport and we're not sitting at a desk or on a building site working 9 to 5, miserable, just trying to pay the rent, then we owe something to this sport. The sport doesn't owe it to us. And it's important that, like, you pay your experiences, and you pay the blessings that we had. You pay that forward to the next generation coming through, because that's what continues to make this sport grow and continues to make it great. And that's my biggest advice, man. And surround yourself with people who you love and people who love you and want the best for you. Yeah, man, for sure. Like, again, I knew how that fight was going to go. I've been in this fight game so long, and I've seen what Tom's got, and I've seen what Bogdan Grad had, and I've seen that guy so many times in different situations, in different scenarios. and I knew that Tom had every single tool that he needed to beat Bogdangrad in devastating fashion. But I also knew that it's a fight game and everybody has a puncher's chance, you know? So for me, I like I never look at records, right? I look at abilities, and I believe that Tom definitely had the ability to beat that kid everywhere. Not saying that Bogdan wasn't a good fighter. Bogdan is one of the best fighters coming out of Europe, 100%. Tom's a different breed, right? But I was probably the most nervous for that fight than I think I've ever been for any fight in my entire life. I knew the stakes at that, and it wasn't so much the pressure; it was the what ifs, you know. And I knew that Tom was going to get it done. I just knew it, but there's still that like 1% where it's like, oh, like everybody has a puncher's chance. It doesn't matter who you are, you know. So yeah, man, the pressure was on. You know, Tom seemed to not feel any pressure at all in that fight. It was almost like he's going into a sparring match, you know. And I was kind of like conscious of making sure that my nervous energy didn't like rub off onto him, you know. But generally, as a team, we were super cool, calm, and collected. We knew what needed to be done, and we did exactly what needed to be done. Yeah, I predict a meteoric rise. To be honest, I one thing that I back myself on is that I'm a straight shooter, and I'll tell you how it is. Yeah, I believe that kid's could be champion within the next 3 years. I think that he's gonna have a meteoric rise, like in Israel Adesanya, Conor McGregor, Sean O'Malley. I think like he's not gonna get suspended like Sean O'Malley, but he's absolutely gonna like skyrocket, man. I've even seen it this week. I did the UFC fight week in Perth when Israel made his debut, and I watched that unfold too. And you know, I watched how the fans reacted to Israel, and it's very reminiscent. Difference being Israel was kind of already a star through Glory Kickboxing and Glory of Heroes, and the fights that he'd had at that point. And I mean, Tom's already a star back home in Australia, but I think by the end of this week, he's going to be a global star. And I think by the end of 2024, he's going to be a global megastar. And I think, Tom he's like me, he likes to be busy. If he can fight three times, 4 times this year, I see him getting in that top 15 pretty quickly. And I see him making his way through that into title contention very, very quickly. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. Where are you based? Oh, okay, cool. Nice. Perfect. Easy, man. Sweet. No, that's cool. Yeah, definitely, man. That's sick. Well, I'll definitely be in contact for sure. Legend. See